He was on his way to meet his fiancée, then he saw his missing ex with twin boys who had his eyes. 5 years after the woman he loved vanished without explanation, a billionaire tech founder saw her at a Brooklyn bus stop with two little boys who looked exactly like him. His fiancée was waiting across Manhattan, his future already planned. But one glimpse of those children forced him to confront a question that could destroy everything he thought he knew. What if the life he had spent 5 years mourning had been living just a few miles away? The first thing Ethan Hale noticed was the boy's eyes. Not the woman beside him. Not the second child struggling with a red knit scarf. Not even the fact that Ethan's driver had stopped the car in the middle of Brooklyn because an accident had backed traffic up for nearly half a mile. It was the eyes. Amber brown, unusually light around the pupils, darkening toward the edges. Ethan had seen those eyes every morning of his life. In mirrors. In photographs. On the face of a father he had spent years trying not to resemble. Then the woman on the bench turned her head. For one impossible second, Ethan forgot how to breathe. Hannah Mercer. 5 years ago, she had disappeared from his Manhattan apartment with one suitcase. She had left her key on the kitchen counter beside a 6-word note. "I'm sorry. Please don't look for me." No explanation. No argument. No goodbye. Ethan had looked for her anyway. Now she was less than 30 feet away. And she had two little boys with his eyes. "Mr. Hale?" His driver's voice seemed to come from another room. Traffic starting to move. Ethan didn't answer. Outside, December wind pushed wrappers along the sidewalk. The sky hung low over Brooklyn, heavy with the promise of snow. People moved around the bus shelter with their shoulders hunched against the cold. Hannah wore a faded tan coat Ethan had never seen before. Her dark hair was loosely twisted at the back of her neck. She looked thinner than he remembered, but softer somehow. Less guarded. Happy. That was what hurt most. She looked happy. One boy was trying to wrap the other's scarf correctly. "You're choking me," the second child complained. "I'm helping." "You're not." Hannah laughed. "Lucas, give your brother some air." The boy released the scarf with exaggerated annoyance. "Owen never lets me help." "Because you're bad at helping." "I am not." "You tied my shoe to the chair yesterday." "That was one time." Hannah crouched between them. "And yet somehow both of you survived." "Amazing." They laughed. Ethan stared through the glass. 4 years old, maybe almost 5. His mind began calculating before his heart could stop it. 5 years since Hannah had left. She could have been pregnant. The thought arrived so violently that his fingers went numb. His right hand slipped into his coat pocket. The velvet ring box was still there. He had planned to give Claire a diamond eternity band after Christmas lunch at the plaza. Not an engagement ring. She already had one. This was something else, something symbolic for the society photographs waiting to be taken that afternoon. A promise before their wedding. A statement that the future had been decided. His phone vibrated. "Claire. Are you close?" "My parents just arrived." Ethan looked up again. Hannah was standing. The boys took her hands. A city bus pulled toward the curb. "No," Ethan whispered. His driver looked into the rearview mirror. "Sir?" Ethan opened the door. Cold air hit him full in the face. "Wait here." "Mr. Hale, we're already late." "I said wait." He stepped onto the sidewalk. "Hannah." His voice disappeared beneath the grinding brakes of the bus. She didn't turn. Maybe she hadn't heard him. Maybe she had. The doors opened. One boy climbed aboard. Then the other. Hannah followed. Ethan pushed through the pedestrians. "Hannah." The doors folded shut. Her head turned. Their eyes met through dirty glass. The color vanished from her face. There was no doubt now. She had seen him. The bus pulled away. Ethan stopped in the street as snow began falling in small, uncertain flakes. For 5 years, he had imagined seeing Hannah again. In some versions, he demanded an explanation. In others, he said nothing at all. Sometimes she apologized. Sometimes he walked past her. Sometimes he woke from the dream so angry that he couldn't go back to sleep. He had never imagined children. His phone vibrated again. Ethan looked at Claire's message. "Everyone is waiting." He stared at the words. Then he called her. She answered immediately. Finally. "Where are you?" "I'm not coming." Silence. "What?" "There's something I need to deal with." "Ethan, there are photographers downstairs." "I know. My father changed his flight for this lunch." "I know. And you're telling me now?" He closed his eyes. Across the street, the bus disappeared around a corner. "I'm sorry." Claire's voice became quieter. "That isn't an answer." "No." "Is this about work?" "No." Another pause. Claire Davenport had spent most of her adult life around powerful men. She recognized avoidance the way other people recognized accents. "Is it another woman?" Ethan opened his eyes. Snow landed on the shoulder of his black wool coat. "It's Hannah." Claire said nothing. She knew the name. Everyone close to Ethan knew the name, though almost nobody had ever met the woman attached to it. Finally Claire whispered, "You found her?" "I saw her." "And?" Ethan looked toward the corner where the bus had vanished. "She has children." The silence changed. Claire understood before he said it. "Ethan." "Twin boys." "How old?" "I don't know." He swallowed. "About 4." Claire exhaled slowly. "Oh my God. I need to find out." "Yes." Her answer surprised him. He had expected anger. Instead, when she spoke again, she sounded controlled in the way people sounded when they were afraid that one wrong movement might break something. "You need to find out. I'm sorry about today. Don't apologize for lunch." "Claire. Just don't lie to me." "I won't." She was quiet again. Then she said, "Call me when you know what's happening." The line went dead. Ethan lowered his phone. For the first time that morning, he understood that seeing Hannah had not merely reopened his past. It had already begun changing his future. His driver found him 5 minutes later standing beside the empty bus shelter. "Where are we going?" Ethan looked at the route map behind the glass. The bus number was still printed at the top. "Find out where this route goes." The driver hesitated. "Sir?" "Please." Ethan rarely said please. The driver pulled out his phone. 20 minutes later, Ethan was standing outside a public library branch in Park Slope. The bus had made more than a dozen stops. Hannah could have gotten off anywhere. It should have made the search impossible. Instead, Ethan saw the red scarf through the library window. His chest tightened. The boys were in the children's section. Hannah sat beside them while one child held up a picture book. Ethan stayed outside. Every instinct told him to go in. Another instinct stopped him. He could walk through those doors and demand the truth. He could say her name loudly enough to make every parent turn around. He could point to those boys and ask the question that had been pounding inside his skull since the bus stop. "Are they mine?" But the children didn't know him. Whatever Hannah had done, whatever she had hidden, they had done nothing. So Ethan waited. For nearly 40 minutes. He ignored 6 calls from his chief operating officer, 3 from his mother, 2 from Claire, and 1 from a board member who had apparently heard that Ethan had skipped the plaza lunch. At last Hannah appeared. She saw him immediately. Her steps stopped. The boys were beside her, each carrying a library book. Her hand tightened around Lucas's shoulder. Ethan noticed. He hated that she looked frightened of him. Hannah. Not here. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I need to talk to you. I know. His eyes dropped toward the boys. Owen stared openly at him. Lucas did too. Children had none of the social instinct that told adults when not to stare. Owen leaned toward his brother. That guy looks like us. Hannah closed her eyes. Ethan's world tilted. Lucas studied Ethan's face. No, he doesn't. The eyes. You think everybody has our eyes. Not everybody. Hannah, Ethan said. She looked at him. Please. Her expression changed at the word. Perhaps because she remembered how rarely he used it. She knelt. Boys, remember Mrs. Kaplan from downstairs? They nodded. We're going to stop by her apartment for a little while. Why? Because I need to talk to someone. Owen pointed at Ethan. Him? Yes. Is he in trouble? Despite everything, a sound almost escaped Ethan. Not quite laughter. Something more painful. Hannah stood. He might be. Mrs. Kaplan was a retired elementary school teacher who lived 1 floor below Hannah in a narrow brownstone on a quiet Park Slope street. She looked Ethan over once, recognized him almost immediately, and decided not to mention it. 45 minutes, Hannah told her. Take an hour. I won't. Mrs. Kaplan touched Hannah's arm. It's okay. Hannah nodded. The boys vanished into the apartment after being promised hot chocolate. Then Hannah turned toward Ethan. We can talk upstairs. Her apartment was small. Not poor. Not temporary. Small in the deliberate way many New York apartments were small, with carefully chosen furniture and children's drawings taped to the refrigerator. There were 2 pairs of sneakers beside the door. 2 backpacks. 2 plastic water bottles. A row of school photographs. Proof of a life Ethan had never known existed. He stood in the middle of the living room while Hannah took off her coat. You can sit. I don't want to sit. Fine. Are they mine? She froze. No preamble. No accusation. No demand for an explanation. Just the question. Her shoulders dropped. Yes. Ethan heard the answer. He understood the word. But for several seconds it refused to become real. Yes? Hannah looked at him. Yes. Both hands went to his hips. He turned away from her. A photograph sat on a shelf. The boys at a beach, probably 2 years old, wearing matching sun hats. Another at Halloween. Another with birthday cake smeared across their faces. 4 birthdays. Christmas mornings. Fevers. First words. First steps. Thousands of ordinary moments. All gone. He turned back. You knew. Yes. From when? Her eyes filled with something he couldn't read. Before I left. The words hit harder than the first answer. Ethan stared at her. You were pregnant when you left me? Yes. And you never told me. No. His jaw tightened. Hannah, I spent 5 years trying to find you. I know. You know? I knew you looked. Something inside him snapped. You knew I looked? His voice rose. She glanced toward the floor, toward the apartment below. Keep your voice down. You disappeared with my children and you're worried about my voice? They are not an argument you get to win. They're my sons. They're 4-year-old boys who think the biggest crisis in their lives is whether I'll let them have marshmallows before dinner. And whose decision was that? Her face hardened. You don't know what happened. Then tell me. She folded her arms. Not while you're talking to me like I'm one of your employees. I don't talk to my employees like this. No. You fire them before you get this angry. You have no idea how I run my company. I knew you before the company owned your life. That silenced him. They stared at each other. 5 years disappeared in an instant. He remembered Hannah barefoot in his first apartment, eating Chinese takeout on the floor because he had spent all his money on servers and couldn't afford furniture. He remembered her sleeping under his desk during a product launch because she refused to go home without him. He remembered promising that if the company ever succeeded, they would disappear for a month somewhere nobody knew his name. The company succeeded. They never took the trip. Why? He asked. The anger had left his voice. That seemed to make the question harder. Hannah looked away. Because you told me you never wanted children. Ethan frowned. I said a lot of stupid things. You said that one more than once. I was 31. You were old enough to mean what you said. I didn't know you were pregnant. That was exactly the problem. He took a step closer. So you decided for me? Yes. At least admit what you did. I am. No, you're explaining it. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I missed their entire lives. I know. You keep saying that. Because there is nothing I can say that gives those years back. His hands opened helplessly. Then why didn't you call me later? 1 month. 6 months. A year. Pick any day in the last 5 years. Hannah's mouth tightened. Because by then you were everywhere. What does that mean? Business magazines. Interviews. Galas. Claire. She and I started dating 2 years after you left. I know. Then don't use her as an excuse. I'm not. You saw pictures of me with another woman and decided our sons didn't need a father? Her face finally cracked. You think this was easy? I think you made sure it was easy for me to know nothing. You want the truth? Yes. The night I tried to tell you, you came home at 2 in the morning. Ethan went still. Hannah's gaze had shifted beyond him. You had been gone 3 days. You canceled dinner twice. You missed the appointment with the realtor. You didn't answer 6 messages. We were closing the Hartwell deal. I know what deal it was. Her voice sharpened. I knew every deal. Every launch. Every crisis. I knew which investors called during dinner and which ones called at 3 in the morning. I knew your passwords because I was the person holding your life together while you built the future. She pressed her lips together. That night you walked in and said you were sorry. I told you we needed to talk. Do you remember what you said? Ethan searched his memory. He remembered fragments. The apartment. A bottle of bourbon. A fight. His father had called that week. The board had threatened to remove him if the financing failed. I don't. I do. Hannah looked directly at him. You said, if this is about marriage or kids, I can't do that to you. I don't want that life. I don't think I ever will. Ethan's eyes closed. He remembered. Not the exact words. But enough. Hannah. I had a pregnancy test in my pocket. He opened his eyes. You didn't tell me. No. Why? Because you had just told me the answer. That wasn't an answer to a question I knew you were asking. It was the only answer I could hear. He ran a hand over his face. I was terrified. So was I. My father had called me that afternoon. I know. He told me I'd destroy any family I tried to build because that was what men in our family did. And instead of telling me that, you told me you didn't want one. Yes. The admission sat between them. Hannah gave a small, exhausted nod. And I believed you. But you still should have told me. I know. For the first time, she didn't defend herself. The simplicity of it disarmed him. I was wrong. Ethan looked at her. She blinked quickly. I was scared. I was angry. And I convinced myself that protecting the babies meant keeping them away from someone who didn't want them. I would have wanted them. You know that now. I know it then too. No, Ethan. You don't. He flinched. She continued more softly. You know what you wish you would have done. That's different. He had no answer. Because she was right about at least that much. The man he had been 5 years ago had measured his worth in market share, funding rounds, and whether people who had underestimated him were finally afraid to do it again. Would that man have welcomed twins? He wanted to say yes. He could not prove it. Hannah walked to the kitchen counter. There's more. Ethan stared at her. What? She opened a drawer and removed an old envelope. His name was written across the front in her handwriting. You wrote to me? I tried. She handed it to him. The envelope had never been mailed. Inside were 3 folded pages. Ethan didn't read them. Why didn't you send it? Your mother came to see me. His head lifted. What? 3 weeks after I left. How did she know where you were? My aunt told her. Why would she? Because your mother said you were worried. Ethan's stomach tightened. Hannah, what did she say? Hannah took a breath. She knew I was pregnant. He stared at her. That's impossible. I told her. You told my mother before you told me? I didn't call her. She showed up. I was sick, I was scared, and I was stupid enough to think maybe she could help me figure out how to talk to you. Ethan's voice dropped. What did she tell you? Hannah looked toward the window. She said you already knew. A chill moved through him. Knew what? That I was pregnant. That's a lie. I know that now. What exactly did she say? She told me you had found the test in the apartment after I left. Ethan shook his head. There was no test. I had thrown it away. She said you told her the pregnancy changed nothing. His face went white. No. She said you were furious that I had left, but relieved I had made the decision before your company went public. She said if I wanted financial support, your attorneys could arrange it privately. No. I didn't take anything. Hannah. She had papers. What papers? An agreement. His breathing changed. I told her no. She threatened you? Not exactly. What does that mean? She said if I came back into your life later, after the company became more valuable, people would assume I had done it for money. She said your attorneys would protect you. She talked about custody. Private investigators. The press. Ethan felt something old and poisonous wake inside him. His mother had always called control protection. She had done it throughout his childhood. Boarding schools chosen without asking him. Friends quietly discouraged. Girlfriends investigated. Contracts arranged. Problems removed. Everything done, supposedly, out of love. Why didn't you call me anyway? Hannah's expression twisted. Because she knew things. What things? Things I had told only you. He understood. His mother had probably gotten them from him. From careless conversations. From nights when he was exhausted and angry. She made it sound like you had told her everything. Hannah's voice broke for the first time. And I was 28 and pregnant with twins and throwing up 6 times a day in my aunt's bathroom. I believed her. Ethan looked down at the letter. His hands were shaking. What's in this? The truth. He unfolded the first page. Ethan. I don't know if you want to hear from me, but there are 2 things you deserve to know. His vision blurred. 2. She had known they were twins. He read another line. I'm 17 weeks pregnant. The doctor says there are 2 babies, both healthy. He stopped. He couldn't continue. The paper lowered. You should have sent it. Yes. I should have come after you myself. Yes. My mother had no right. No. And none of that changes the fact that you made a decision about my life without me. I know. He hated how much he needed her to argue. He wanted someone to blame cleanly. Hannah would not give him that. Neither would the past. A knock sounded downstairs. The boys. 45 minutes were over. Hannah wiped beneath one eye. They need dinner. Ethan looked at her. I want to see them. Not tonight. They're my sons. They don't know that. Then tell them. No. His anger returned. Hannah. Look at yourself. What? You learned you were a father less than an hour ago. That doesn't change what I am. It changes everything. She stepped closer. You want to walk downstairs, tell 2 preschoolers that the stranger from the library is their father, and then what? Take them to your penthouse? Buy them bunk beds? Put their names on a trust? His silence answered for him. Hannah gave a humorless laugh. That is exactly what you were thinking. I can take care of them. They are already taken care of. I didn't say they weren't. You didn't have to. Hannah, I have resources. And I have been their mother every day since they were born. I'm not trying to replace you. You're trying to solve this. Of course I am. They're not a problem to solve. The words landed. Ethan looked toward the floor. He could hear faint laughter from below. He lowered his voice. What do you want me to do? Hannah seemed surprised by the question. For tonight? For them. She studied him for several seconds. Go home. His expression hardened. Read the letter. Be angry. Call your mother. Call your lawyer if you need to. Do whatever Ethan Hale does when his world stops making sense. He nearly interrupted. She continued. But give yourself 1 night before you walk into their world. He hated the request. Which was how he knew she might be right. 1 night. Yes. Tomorrow I see them. We talk tomorrow. No. Ethan. I lost 4 years. And losing your mind tonight will not give them back. He stared at her. Then nodded once. Tomorrow. He put the letter inside his coat. At the door, he stopped. What do they know about their father? Hannah's fingers tightened around the doorknob. They know he didn't know about them. Ethan looked back at her. You told them that? Yes. Why? Because whatever I was angry about, I was never going to tell my sons their father abandoned them when he didn't. For the first time since the bus stop, something inside Ethan loosened. Not forgiveness. Not even gratitude. Just enough room to breathe. He left. Claire was sitting in his apartment when he returned. She had changed out of the cream dress she had chosen for lunch and was wearing black pants and one of Ethan's old Columbia University sweatshirts. It made the scene feel intimate in a way that hurt. A bottle of wine sat unopened on the kitchen island. "You used your key," he said. "You weren't answering." "I'm sorry. There has been a lot of that today." He removed his coat. Claire saw the envelope in his hand. "So?" Ethan leaned against the counter. "They're mine." She closed her eyes briefly. "You're sure?" "She told me." "That isn't what I meant." He understood. "A test will confirm it. You should do one." "I know." Claire watched him. "What are their names?" "Lucas and Owen." "How old?" "4." He swallowed. "They'll be 5 in March." Claire nodded slowly. Then she noticed his face. "What else?" "My mother knew." Claire's eyebrows rose. She knew Hannah had children? She knew Hannah was pregnant. 5 years ago? Yes. Claire stood. "Ethan." She went to Hannah. "Told her I knew. Told her I didn't want the babies." Claire's expression shifted from shock to disgust. "Did you?" "No." "Did Hannah believe her?" "Yes." "And you had no idea?" "None." Claire walked toward the window. For a while, neither of them spoke. Finally she said, "You have to tell your mother you know." "I will. That is not the part I'm worried about." He looked at her. She turned. "What happens to us?" Ethan had negotiated acquisitions worth billions of dollars. He had sat across tables from men whose companies were collapsing and told them exactly what he was willing to pay. He had fired friends. He had closed offices. He had given speeches to 10,000 people without notes. Yet he had no idea what to say to the woman he was supposed to marry in 6 months. Claire saw the answer before he found words. Her face changed. "Wow. Claire. No. Don't." She pressed her lips together. "You saw her for what, 2 minutes?" "It isn't about that." "Then what is it about?" "I found out I have 2 sons." "I understand that. My life is not what I thought it was this morning. And neither is mine." He looked down. Claire laughed once, sharply. "I sat at the plaza today with both our families and 30 people pretending nobody noticed the empty chair beside me. I'm sorry. I told them there was an emergency." "There was." "I know." She crossed her arms. "What I don't know is whether I was always your second choice and just didn't realize it." "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" "No." "Then tell me you're still marrying me." Ethan said nothing. Claire's eyes filled, but she didn't look away. "There it is. This happened today." "Exactly. I need time." "You had 5 years. I thought she was gone. And now she isn't." The room became painfully quiet. Claire took off the engagement ring. Ethan straightened. "Don't. I'm not doing anything dramatic." She placed the ring on the counter. "I'm refusing to become the woman who spends the next 6 months wondering whether her husband is thinking about somebody else every time he looks at his children. We don't know what any of this means yet. I know what it means to me." She picked up her coat. "Claire." At the door, she stopped. "I love you, Ethan." He closed his eyes. "That is what makes this so humiliating. You didn't do anything wrong." "Neither did I." He looked at her. She nodded toward the velvet box still visible in his coat pocket. "Whatever you were planning to give me today, Keep it. Then she left. Ethan stood alone in an apartment built for a life that no longer existed. At 11:30 that night, he called his mother. Vivian Hale answered on the second ring. "I've been trying to reach you all day. Do you have any idea what you did to Claire? You knew Hannah was pregnant." Silence. Not confusion. Silence. Ethan gripped the phone. "Say something." His mother exhaled. "Where did you see her?" He laughed without humor. "So it's true. Ethan. You knew." "I knew she claimed to be pregnant." "She was pregnant. I had no proof." "You went to her." "Yes. You told her I knew." "I was trying to protect you." His eyes closed. "There it is." "What?" "The sentence you use every time you decide somebody else doesn't deserve a choice." Vivian's voice cooled. "You were weeks away from the most important financing round of your life. Your father was trying to force you out. She disappeared without telling you why. And your solution was to lie to her." "My solution was to understand what she wanted." "She wanted me." "You don't know that." "I knew her." "You thought you knew her." Ethan's hand tightened. "She had my children." Vivian stopped breathing for half a second. "Children?" "Twin boys." "Oh." The small sound made Ethan angrier than denial would have. "Therefore." Vivian recovered quickly. "You need a paternity test." "I'm getting one. And before anyone speaks to the press." "No." "Ethan, listen to me." "No." "You listen." He paced toward the windows. 5 years ago you interfered in my life because you thought the company mattered more than anything else. Today I met 2 sons who do not know my name. I didn't know she kept the pregnancy. You didn't know because it was none of your business. I am your mother. That stopped meaning you were entitled to make decisions for me when I turned 18. Everything I did was because I knew what your father would do if he learned. Do not blame him for this." Vivian went quiet. Ethan looked out over Manhattan. "He spent my childhood controlling people through fear. You controlled them through concern. It took me years to understand how similar those things can look from the other side." Her voice became smaller. "I thought she would come back if she really loved you." "So did I." That was the first true thing either of them had said. Ethan swallowed. "For 5 years, I thought she chose to leave me." "I'm sorry." "You should be." "I made a mistake." "No." He closed his eyes. "You made a decision. A mistake is forgetting an appointment." He ended the call. At 1 in the morning, Ethan sat on the floor beside his bed and finished Hannah's letter. She had written about fear. About the first ultrasound. About hearing 2 heartbeats and crying so hard the technician had thought something was wrong. She had written that she loved him. She had written that she was not asking for money. She had written that if he wanted to meet the babies, she would never stop him. At the bottom of the 3rd page was a sentence that stayed with him until sunrise. "I'm afraid that if I see you again, I'll believe whatever you tell me because loving you has always made it difficult for me to know where you end and I begin." Ethan read it 4 times. Then he finally understood something he had refused to see when they were together. He had loved Hannah. But he had also taken up almost all the oxygen in their relationship. His crises became their crises. His deadlines became their plans. His ambitions became their future. Hannah had been beside him, but too often Ethan had treated that as proof she would always remain there. The next afternoon, she opened her apartment door and found him holding nothing. No flowers. No gifts. No lawyer. Her eyes flicked to his empty hands. "I thought you might show up with an entire toy store." I almost did. I believe you. I also almost bought the building. Hannah stared at him. That is not funny. I know. A beat passed. Then the corner of her mouth moved despite herself. Ethan's heart reacted before he could stop it. He looked away. I read the letter. Her smile disappeared. All of it? Yes. I'm sorry. So am I. He took a breath. I contacted a family therapist. Her expression sharpened. Hannah, listen first. She did. I told her the situation without names. She said we should not tell the boys anything until we agree on what happens after we tell them. That sounds reasonable. I hated hearing it. I'm sure. She also said the first introduction should be simple. No promises about where I'll be sleeping or how many days I'll see them. Just let them know I'm someone important to you. Hannah studied his face. You really called a therapist? At 7:15 this morning. Of course you did. She had an opening at 7. Of course she did. He almost smiled. Then a child screamed from the hallway behind her. Mom. Lucas stole my dinosaur. I borrowed it. You hid it in your pants. Ethan blinked. Hannah sighed. Welcome to fatherhood. He followed her into the apartment. Lucas and Owen stood in the living room, one furious, the other suspiciously protective of his sweatpants. They stopped when they saw Ethan. Owen pointed. Library guy. Hale, Lucas corrected. Ethan frowned. How do you know my name? Lucas held up a tablet. Hannah's face strained. What did you do? We looked him up. You are not supposed to use that without asking. You said we could use it for school. This is not school. Owen looked at Ethan. You make computers? Sort of. Are you famous? Sort of. Are you rich? Hannah covered her face. Mrs. Kaplan. She said extremely. Ethan coughed. Lucas narrowed his eyes. Why do you know Mom? Hannah looked at Ethan. This was the moment. Not the full truth. Not yet. But the first step. Ethan lowered himself onto one knee so he was closer to their height. Your mom and I were very good friends a long time ago. Like Mrs. Kaplan? Not exactly. Did you go to school together? No. Did you kiss? Hannah made a choking sound. Ethan stared at Owen. Why would you ask that? Mom says people on television kiss too much. Lucas nodded seriously. She does say that. Hannah turned red. Ethan looked at her. For the first time in 5 years, they both laughed. It lasted only seconds. But the sound changed the room. Over the next 2 weeks, Ethan learned that fatherhood arrived first through details. Lucas hated bananas but liked banana bread. Owen slept with a stuffed dog named Captain even though he insisted he was too old for stuffed animals. Lucas asked questions until adults regretted teaching him language. Owen watched quietly and then said something so accurate it made everyone uncomfortable. Both boys loved trains. Both hated haircuts. They could not agree on pizza toppings. They had a preschool Christmas concert on December 19th. Ethan wrote the date into a calendar usually reserved for earnings calls and board meetings. Hannah noticed. You don't have to rearrange your life overnight. Yes, I do. No. You have to make space in it. That's what I said. It isn't. He looked at her. She was standing beside the kitchen sink, rinsing 2 plastic cups. You used to think loving someone meant reorganizing the world around them until everything fit your plan. That sounds efficient. That sounds exhausting. It probably was. Hannah paused. The old Ethan would have argued. The new one surprised her often enough to be dangerous. A paternity test was arranged privately. Ethan hated it. Hannah insisted. If there is ever a legal question later, there needs to be no uncertainty. I'm not questioning you. I know. Then why? Because this is bigger than what we believe. The results arrived 3 days later. Probability of paternity, greater than 99.99%. Ethan read the report once. Then again. His sons. Not possible sons. Not boys who happened to resemble him. His sons. He sat alone in his office for several minutes with the door locked. Then he cried. Quietly. Briefly. Not because he was sad. Not exactly. Because something that had existed only as a possibility had become permanent. Across town, Hannah received the same result. She cried too. For a completely different reason. The following Saturday, they told the boys. The therapist, Dr. Melissa Grant, had advised them to keep the explanation simple. Children did not need 5 years of adult guilt. They needed safety. Hannah sat on one side of the couch. Ethan sat on the other. Lucas and Owen sat on the rug with Captain between them. Hannah began. You know how families can look different? Lucas nodded. Some kids have a mom and dad. Owen added, some have 2 moms. Yes. Some live with grandma. Yes. Mrs. Kaplan has a cat. That is not the same thing. She says he's family. Fine. Cats too. Ethan smiled nervously. Hannah looked at him, then back at the boys. You have a dad too. Lucas frowned. You said he didn't know about us. That's right. Does he know now? Yes. Owen's gaze moved to Ethan. The room went still. You? Ethan's throat tightened. Yes. Neither boy spoke. Every speech Ethan had rehearsed disappeared. Lucas looked at his brother. Owen looked back. Then Lucas asked, how come you didn't know? Ethan glanced at Hannah. She nodded. Because grown-ups sometimes make mistakes when they're scared. Mom made a mistake? Yes. Hannah answered before Ethan could. I did. Owen looked at Ethan. Did you? Ethan's chest tightened. Yes. What mistake? I didn't make it easy for your mom to know she could trust me. Lucas considered this. Then asked the question Ethan had dreaded most. Did you not want us? Ethan moved from the couch to the rug. No. The word came too quickly. He corrected himself. No, buddy. That's not what happened. But you didn't know. I didn't. Would you want us if you knew? Hannah stopped breathing. Ethan looked at his son. There was no correct answer except the truth. I wish I could tell you exactly what I would have done 5 years ago. But I can't. Hannah stared at him. He continued. I can tell you something I know now. What? I am very glad you're here. Owen leaned against Lucas. Both of us? Especially both. Even when he steals dinosaurs? Even then. Lucas protested. I borrowed it. Ethan smiled. I'm still learning the rules. The boys did not run into his arms. They did not call him Dad. They did not suddenly love him. What happened instead was smaller. Owen brought Ethan Captain. You can hold him. Ethan took the stuffed dog. Thanks. Don't lose him. I won't. Lucas moved closer. Do you really make computers? Not exactly. You said sort of. Would you like me to explain? Lucas nodded. 20 minutes later, Hannah walked into the kitchen and cried silently against the refrigerator while Ethan sat on the floor explaining software to two children who understood almost none of it. The first month was awkward. Ethan came for dinner twice a week. He attended the preschool concert and sat in the third row instead of using his assistant to secure front row seats. He learned that children did not care whether he had an investor call if they had already been promised pancakes. He learned preschool pickup required identification. He learned wet mittens smelled terrible. He learned that telling a 4-year-old 5 minutes created a binding legal agreement in the child's mind. He also learned that Hannah had built a good life. She worked as a senior designer for a nonprofit that developed affordable community housing. Her apartment was modest but warm. The boys attended a small neighborhood preschool. Mrs. Kaplan knew their pediatrician's number. Hannah had savings. Friends. A support system. She did not need rescuing. That realization embarrassed Ethan more than he expected. For years he had imagined that if he ever found Hannah, she would either be miserable without him or living some glamorous life that proved she had never cared. He had never imagined the simplest possibility. She had survived. One Tuesday evening, Ethan arrived carrying 2 grocery bags. Hannah looked inside. Organic blueberries in December? They like blueberries. They're $9. I didn't check. Obviously. He put another container on the counter. Strawberries. Ethan. What? You cannot feed them like they're tiny venture capitalists. I don't know what that means. It means normal blueberries are fine. There were normal blueberries? She laughed. He watched her. The laugh faded. What? Nothing. That was a look. I forgot what you sounded like when you laughed at me. Hannah's expression softened. You gave me a lot of practice. I did. Their eyes stayed together too long. Hannah looked away first. The engagement ring was no longer on Ethan's hand because he had never worn one, but the absence of Claire hovered between them anyway. Hannah knew the engagement had ended. She had seen photographs online of Claire leaving his building without her ring. She had also seen headlines. Tech billionaire's Christmas engagement crisis. Mystery woman behind Hale Davenport split? The press did not know about the twins yet. That changed 3 days before Christmas. Ethan was leaving the preschool with Lucas when a photographer shouted his name. Ethan. Who's the kid? His entire body reacted. He pulled Lucas closer. Another camera appeared. Is that your son? Lucas looked up. Why is he taking pictures? Ethan turned his body between the child and the camera. Get in the car. His security driver opened the door. Lucas froze. I want Mom. She's coming. Mom. The panic in his voice cut through Ethan. Hannah appeared from the preschool entrance with Owen. The photographers immediately moved toward her. Ethan stepped forward. Back up. Are these your kids, Ethan? Hannah, how long have you known Mr. Hale? Did he leave Claire for you? Are these secret children? Hannah's face turned white. Owen began crying. Ethan's security guard blocked the sidewalk while Hannah climbed into the SUV with both boys. Ethan got in after them. The door slammed. Lucas was trembling. Why did they yell? Hannah held him. They wanted a picture. Why? Because Ethan is famous, Owen whispered. Hannah looked at Ethan. Her fear became anger. This is what I was afraid of. I didn't call them. I know. My team can handle it. There. What? That word. What word? Handle. He stopped. Hannah looked down at the children. This is not a bad article you make disappear. I know. Do you? His phone began ringing. His communications director. Then his chief operating officer. Then his mother. Ethan turned the phone off. Hannah noticed. I'm taking you home. No. What? Your building will be watched. So will yours. Not yet. She looked toward the rear window. You think they don't know where I live? He did not answer. Hannah's face tightened. Exactly. Ethan called his security director from a second phone. Send 2 people to Hannah's building. Plain clothes. No uniforms. Stay outside unless she asks. Hannah opened her mouth. They are not entering your home. She closed it. Fine. By midnight, the photographs were online. The clearest image showed Ethan carrying Lucas through a crowd of photographers. The headline spread faster than his public relations team could contain it. Billionaire tech founder has secret twins with former girlfriend. For once, the internet was not wrong. Ethan issued a short statement. The children were his. They had only recently been reunited. Their privacy mattered. Nothing else would be discussed. His board hated it. His mother hated it. The press hated it because it provided no drama. Claire appreciated it. She called him the next morning. I saw the pictures. I'm sorry. You don't need to apologize to me. How are you? Humiliated in several luxury zip codes. He winced. Claire. I'm joking. Are you? Mostly. A pause. Then she said, the boys are beautiful. Ethan closed his eyes. Thank you. They look like you. I know. That must have been terrifying. It still is. Claire laughed softly. That is the first normal thing I've heard you say in 3 years. He leaned back in his chair. I hurt you. Yes. I didn't mean to. I know. That doesn't make it better. No. Another pause. Were you happy with me? She asked. Ethan answered carefully. Yes. That wasn't what I asked. He frowned. You asked whether I was happy. I asked whether you were happy with me. He understood the difference. I cared about you. Claire inhaled. There's another non-answer. I didn't know I was still waiting for Hannah. That's the answer. I'm sorry. I know. She was quiet. I think part of me knew too. What do you mean? You never talked about her. Ever. People don't avoid the things they're over. They avoid the things that still have power. Ethan looked out his office window. I hope you find somebody who deserves you. Claire groaned. Please don't become sentimental. It doesn't suit you. He smiled despite himself. Take care of yourself, Claire. You too. Before ending the call, she added, and Ethan? Yeah? Do not try to buy those children's love. He stared at the phone after she hung up. Apparently everyone knew him too well. Christmas became the next test. Ethan wanted the boys to meet his mother. Hannah refused. No. She's their grandmother. She's the reason you missed their first 4 Christmases. She made one terrible decision. So did I. Are you planning to leave the boys alone with me? He gave her a look. You know what I mean. She asked to meet them. And what did you say? That I'd talk to you. Hannah folded a sweater into a small suitcase. They were spending Christmas Eve with her aunt in Connecticut. Ethan had been invited. He still wasn't sure if the invitation came from Hannah or the twins. Probably the twins. Do you want her to meet them? Hannah asked. He thought about it. Yes. Why? Because she's my mother. That's not enough. It has to be. No. Hannah stopped packing. Being related to a child does not automatically make somebody safe for that child. The sentence struck him harder than she intended. His expression changed. Hannah immediately regretted the wording. I'm not talking about you. Aren't you? No. He looked away. Hannah stepped closer. I kept them from you. I know exactly how unfair that was. I'm not saying biology means nothing. Then what are you saying? That access and trust are not the same thing. Ethan looked at the half-packed suitcase. What would she have to do? Take responsibility. She apologized. To you. He understood. She needs to apologize to you. No. Hannah shook her head. She needs to understand what she did. Isn't that the same? No. Hannah resumed folding. People apologize because they want discomfort to end. Understanding means they stop doing the thing that caused it. Ethan was silent. That evening, he drove to his mother's townhouse on the Upper East Side. Vivian was decorating a Christmas tree. Not assistants. Not staff. Herself. Ethan remembered helping her when he was a child, before his parents' divorce turned every holiday into a negotiation. She looked over her shoulder. You came. Don't sound surprised. I wasn't sure. He removed his coat. For a moment, she looked hopeful. Are the boys? No. Her face fell. Hannah isn't ready. Hannah has controlled enough of this situation. Ethan's eyes hardened. Vivian caught herself. I'm sorry. You see the problem? Yes. Do you? She put down the ornament in her hand. Ethan, I made a terrible mistake. You still think the mistake was that Hannah believed you? Vivian frowned. That isn't fair. It's exactly fair. He stepped closer. You didn't accidentally give her bad advice. You lied. I thought she was leaving you. She was scared. So were you. What? You were falling apart. Vivian's composure shifted. Your father was trying to destroy the company. You were sleeping 3 hours a night. You called me from your office and said you couldn't breathe. Ethan remembered. A panic attack he had told no one else about. Vivian continued. You told me Hannah wanted marriage and children and that you were terrified you would become your father. So you decided removing her was best. I thought if she truly wanted you, she would come back. You tested her? Vivian looked down. I suppose I did. You treated my life like one of your social experiments. I wanted to know whether she loved you or the future you were building. She was there before there was any future. I know that now. No. You knew it then. Vivian's eyes filled. Ethan had rarely seen his mother cry. When she spoke, the control was gone. I hated how much power she had over you. He stared at her. There it was. Not protection. Not money. Not reputation. Fear. Why? Because you loved her enough to leave everything. I never offered to leave anything. I thought you might. She looked toward the Christmas tree. Your father spent 25 years teaching me that love was leverage. Whoever cares more loses. Ethan's anger softened, but only slightly. And you believed him? Yes. You taught me the same thing. I'm sorry. He watched her. This apology sounded different. Vivian wiped her cheek. I don't expect Hannah to forgive me. Good. I would like to meet my grandsons someday. Then when that day comes, you meet them on her terms. Vivian nodded. And mine. She looked at him. Yes. Ethan picked up his coat. At the door, his mother said, Are you in love with her? He stopped. He did not turn around. I don't know what I'm allowed to feel yet. Vivian gave a sad smile. That sounds healthier than anything I ever taught you. Christmas Eve in Connecticut was loud, crowded, and completely unlike the holidays Ethan knew. Hannah's Aunt Carol lived in a white farmhouse outside Stamford with her second husband, 2 dogs, and a kitchen permanently filled with food. Lucas and Owen raced through the house in pajamas. Ethan was ordered to peel potatoes. Nobody cared that he was a billionaire. Carol's husband, Mike, handed him a peeler and pointed toward a 10-pound bag. You know how to use one? I went to college. So no. Ethan peeled potatoes. Badly. Hannah watched from the stove. You're taking off half the potato. I'm removing the skin. You're removing the potato. It's a flawed vegetable. She laughed. Mike whispered loudly, You're letting the rich guy near the sharp tools? He's improving. Low bar? Extremely. Ethan looked at Hannah. She was smiling. There was no guardedness. No press. No lawyers. No apartment filled with memories of the years he had missed. Just a kitchen. For one dangerous moment, he imagined belonging there. That night, after the boys fell asleep, Hannah found him on the back porch. Snow covered the yard. He held 2 mugs of coffee. You made those? No. Your aunt doesn't trust me anymore. Smart woman. He handed her one. They stood side by side. Thank you for letting me come. The boys wanted you here. I know. Hannah looked at him. I wanted you here too. He turned. She immediately looked down at her coffee. Ethan's heart accelerated. Hannah. Don't. I haven't said anything. You were about to. Maybe. That's why I said don't. He nodded. They watched snow drift beyond the porch light. After a minute, she said, When you told the boys you didn't know what you would have done if you had known about them. Yes? I was angry. I know. I wanted you to say you would have chosen us. I wanted to say it. Why didn't you? Because they deserve better than a comforting lie. Hannah swallowed. And now? Now what? Would you choose them? He looked at her. Every time. The answer came without hesitation. Her eyes filled. Ethan stepped closer, then stopped before touching her. Hannah, I don't expect you to trust me because I finally learned how to show up for 6 weeks. That is not what scares me. What does? She looked at him. That I already do. Neither moved. The porch suddenly felt too small. Ethan's voice lowered. We can go slowly. You are terrible at slowly. I'm learning. With the boys. With everything. She looked at his mouth. He noticed. Hannah. She kissed him before either of them could turn it into a decision. It lasted only a few seconds. Then she pulled away. Her face showed immediate panic. We should not have done that. Probably not. You agree? No. She almost laughed. That is not helpful. I'm trying to be honest. She rubbed her forehead. 6 weeks ago you were engaged. I know. I spent 5 years telling myself you were part of another life. I know. The boys are still adjusting. I know. And if we get this wrong, they get hurt. I know. She looked at him sharply. Stop saying you know. A smile touched his mouth. I've heard that before. Hannah laughed despite herself. Then she became serious. I cannot disappear inside your life again. You won't. You cannot promise that. No. He considered his next words. But I can promise to notice when I start making every decision for everyone in the room. That sounds less romantic. It's the most romantic thing I've ever said. That is unfortunately true. He held out his hand. Not pulling her toward him. Just offering it. After a moment, Hannah took it. For several months, that was what their relationship became. An offered hand. Dinner. School pickup. Coffee after bedtime. Arguments that did not end with somebody leaving. Ethan moved more meetings out of early evenings. He hired a second executive vice president. His board complained. He ignored them. He did not step away from his company. He simply stopped treating exhaustion as evidence of importance. The hardest adjustment came in March. The twins' 5th birthday. Ethan wanted to give them everything. Hannah allowed one gift each. That is cruel. That is parenting. I missed 4 birthdays. You cannot make them up with 4 gifts. What about 5? 1. 2. 1. 1 plus an experience. What kind of experience? Something they would actually like. Ethan took them to the New York Transit Museum. Lucas spent 20 minutes examining an old subway map. Owen announced he wanted to drive a train when he grew up. Ethan bought them each one small wooden subway car from the gift shop. Hannah pretended not to notice that this technically violated the one-gift rule. That afternoon, they had cake in her apartment. Mrs. Kaplan came. Carol and Mike drove down from Connecticut. Ethan's mother did not. Not because she had not been invited. Because she had asked Hannah whether the birthday should be about the boys instead of meeting a new grandmother. Hannah had stared at the message for a long time. Then replied. Maybe next month. It was the first step. Vivian met Lucas and Owen in April at Central Park. She brought no expensive gifts. Only 2 books Ethan had loved when he was little. She cried when Owen called her Ethan's mom. She did not ask to be called grandma. 3 visits later, Lucas did it by accident. Vivian went home and cried again. Trust returned slowly. So did love. Ethan and Hannah did not move in together. They did not announce a reunion. They went to therapy. Sometimes together. Sometimes separately. Hannah admitted she still expected Ethan to leave emotionally when work became difficult. Ethan admitted he still panicked whenever she took too long to answer a message. You think I'm disappearing again, she said one evening. Yes. I went to Target. For 2 hours. It was Target. That is apparently normal? Very. He smiled. I'm working on it. She touched his face. I know. 9 months after the bus stop, Hannah stood inside Ethan's office for the first time in more than 5 years. The company had moved since she left. Glass walls. Hudson River view. Art chosen by consultants. Almost nothing remained from the startup she remembered. Except one thing. On a shelf behind Ethan's desk sat an old chipped blue coffee mug. Hannah stared at it. You kept that? He followed her gaze. You gave it to me. It cost $6. I know. You own paintings worth more than my apartment. None of them say world's okayest programmer. She smiled. I bought that because you broke every mug I owned. You had fragile mugs. You dropped them. Design flaw. Some things had not changed. She walked toward the window. Below them, Manhattan moved at its usual impossible speed. You know what I used to think? She asked. What? That if I ever came back here, I would feel small. Ethan stood beside her. Do you? No. The answer surprised them both. She turned toward him. I don't need you the way I used to. He nodded. I know. That doesn't hurt you? Sometimes. She smiled sadly. At least you're honest. He looked at her. I don't want you to need me because you're afraid you can't survive without me. What do you want? I want you to choose me when you know you can leave. Her eyes filled. Ethan. He reached into his pocket. Hannah immediately stepped backward. No. He froze. She pointed. If that is a ring, put it away. A laugh escaped him. It isn't. What is it? He opened his hand. A key. Hannah stared. To what? My apartment. She did not take it. I'm not moving in. I know. You said apartment. It's a key. That is how moving in starts. It also opens doors. That was terrible. I panicked. She laughed. He held it out again. No pressure. No timeline. No closet with your name on it. You already cleared a closet, didn't you? Ethan said nothing. Oh my God. It was a small closet. You are impossible. She took the key. But she didn't move in. Not then. The real test came 3 months later. Nexera received an acquisition offer that would have required Ethan to spend most of the following year traveling between New York and California. 5 years earlier, he would have accepted before reading the final page. The offer was extraordinary. His board wanted it. Investors wanted it. Financial reporters called it inevitable. Ethan did not answer immediately. Instead, he sat at Hannah's kitchen table after the boys went to bed. I want to do it, he admitted. Hannah nodded. I know. It's the biggest deal we've ever had. I know. I could structure the travel. Probably. I could fly back weekends. Probably. He looked at her. You hate it? No. Hannah. She sighed. I hate what it reminds me of. That isn't the same. No. He leaned back. What do you think I should do? She stared at him. What? What do you think? You never used to ask me that. I know. She smiled faintly. I don't want to be the reason you say no. You wouldn't be. I also don't want the boys learning that loving someone means asking them to become smaller. Ethan looked down. That sounds familiar. It should. What would you do? If it mattered enough to me? Yes. I'd find a version that didn't require sacrificing everything else. They may reject that. They might. And then I lose the deal. Yes. He laughed softly. You make this sound simple. It isn't simple. She reached across the table. It's just a choice. So Ethan made one. He returned to the board with a counterproposal. No permanent relocation. Limited travel. More authority for his executive team. If the acquiring company wanted the deal, they would accept a founder who had a life outside the office. The board told him he was being emotional. For the first time, Ethan did not treat that word as an insult. The deal closed in February. On his terms. The twins started kindergarten. Lucas decided he wanted to become an engineer. Owen changed his career plan from train driver to veterinarian after Mrs. Kaplan's cat got sick. Vivian became grandma without anybody announcing it. Claire married no one and did not disappear tragically from the story of Ethan's life. She became president of her family foundation, gave an interview about educational access that had nothing to do with Ethan, and eventually stopped appearing in headlines beside his name. Once, nearly 2 years after their engagement ended, they saw each other at a charity gala. Claire crossed the ballroom. "You look different," she said. "Older? Tired? I have twins." "There it is." She smiled. "How are they?" 6. That was not the question. Ethan laughed. "They're good." "And Hannah?" "Good." Claire studied him. "You?" Ethan looked across the room. Hannah stood beside a table speaking to one of her coworkers. She caught his eye. She smiled. "Good," he said. Claire followed his gaze. Then nodded. "That's what I thought." The following December, almost exactly 2 years after the bus stop, snow began falling over Brooklyn just before dusk. Hannah was late leaving work. Ethan had offered to pick up the boys, but she insisted she would make it. When she reached their old bus stop, she found 3 figures waiting beneath the shelter. Lucas, Owen, and Ethan. "What are you doing here?" Lucas grinned. "Dad said this is where he found us." Ethan looked offended. "I did not say I found you. That sounds like you were abandoned luggage." "You kind of did," Owen said. Hannah looked at Ethan. "You brought them here?" "They wanted to see it." "Why?" Lucas shrugged. "Dad says important things happen in normal places." Hannah's chest tightened. Ethan put his hands in his coat pockets. No tailored driver waiting at the curb. No security visible. No photographers. Just a man standing in the cold with his children. Their children. Owen looked between them. "Can we go?" "I'm freezing." "In a minute," Ethan said. Lucas groaned. "Is this romantic stuff?" "Possibly." "Then we're going over there." He dragged Owen toward a nearby bakery window. Hannah laughed. Ethan stepped closer. "You planned that." "I did not." "They are your children." "They're ours." The manipulation could come from either side. Snow landed in Hannah's hair. Ethan looked at her for a long moment. "The first time I saw you here, I had a ring in my pocket." Her smile faded slightly. "I know. I was supposed to give it to someone else. I also know that. I thought I had my entire life figured out." "You usually do." "I usually think I do. Better." He reached into his coat. Hannah stared. "Ethan. This one is a ring." She closed her eyes. "You promised you would not surprise me." "I promised I would not surprise you with decisions that affect your life." "This feels very close." "You already know I want to marry you." "That is annoyingly true." "And you told me last month you wanted that too." "I did. So technically, this is jewelry." She laughed. He opened the small box. The ring was simple. Beautiful. Nothing like the enormous diamond he had once chosen because he thought love should look impressive from across a ballroom. Hannah looked from the ring to him. Ethan did not kneel. He had considered it. Then decided what he needed to say mattered more than the picture. 5 years ago, I thought love meant making enough promises that nobody could leave. Hannah's eyes filled. I was wrong. He took a breath. I cannot promise I'll never become scared or selfish or obsessed with work. You cannot promise you'll never want to run when things become difficult. That is not very romantic. I'm getting there. She smiled through tears. I can promise that I will tell you when I'm afraid instead of pretending I don't care. His voice tightened. I can promise I will ask instead of decide. Another breath. And I can promise that every time life gives me the choice between protecting my pride and showing up for this family, I will do everything I can to show up. Hannah wiped her cheek. That was better. I practiced. I know. So. Ethan looked unusually nervous. Hannah had watched him speak in front of thousands of people. She had watched him negotiate billion-dollar contracts. She had seen him face reporters, investors, attorneys, and his own mother without hesitation. Nothing had ever made Ethan Hale look as frightened as waiting for one woman at a Brooklyn bus stop to answer a question he already knew she had chosen freely. Hannah Mercer, will you marry me? She looked toward the bakery. Lucas and Owen had their faces pressed against the glass, very obviously watching. Owen gave her 2 enthusiastic thumbs up. Hannah laughed. Then she turned back to Ethan. Yes. His shoulders dropped as if he had been holding his breath for 2 years. Yes? Yes. He slid the ring onto her finger. Then she kissed him. From across the sidewalk, Lucas yelled, "Too much kissing." Owen shouted, "I told you." Ethan rested his forehead against Hannah's. We're raising critics. They get it from me. Unfortunately. She smiled. The bus arrived behind them. Doors opened. People stepped off. Others climbed aboard. Nobody knew that 2 years earlier, Ethan Hale's life had broken open on that same stretch of sidewalk. Nobody knew that he had once stood there believing he had lost 5 years he could never recover. He had been right about one thing. He could never recover them. Lucas and Owen would never be babies in his arms. He would never hear their first words as they happened. He would never see their first steps except in videos Hannah had saved. There was no money, apology, therapy session, or act of love powerful enough to rewrite the past. For a long time, Ethan had thought healing meant finding a way to make the loss disappear. It did not. Healing meant learning to carry what could not be changed without allowing it to destroy what still could. Hannah had learned something too. Fear could disguise itself as protection. Silence could feel safer than confrontation. But keeping someone from the chance to hurt you also kept them from the chance to surprise you. She could not go back and tell Ethan about the twins when she first held the pregnancy test in her hand. She could only tell him the truth now. Again and again. Especially when it frightened her. Lucas and Owen ran back from the bakery. Can we get cookies? Owen asked. No, Hannah said. Yes, Ethan said at the same time. She looked at him. He corrected himself immediately. We should discuss whether the family would benefit from cookies. Lucas sighed. Dad. What? Just ask Mom. Ethan glanced at Hannah. 1 cookie? After dinner. 2 after dinner? 1. He looked at the boys. I tried. Lucas shook his head. You're bad at negotiating. Hannah laughed so hard she had to hold Ethan's arm. He looked offended. I literally negotiate for a living. Mom always wins. Owen said it as if explaining gravity. Ethan considered this. Then looked at Hannah. Apparently my sons think you run the family. They're smart boys. He took her hand. The ring caught a small reflection from the bakery lights. Maybe they are. The 4 of them started walking home together. Behind them, the bus pulled away from the curb. Ahead of them were homework battles, soccer practices, work trips, colds, arguments, forgotten anniversaries, family dinners, and mornings when nobody would remember where Owen had left his shoes. There would be difficult years. There would be mistakes. Ethan knew that now. A family was not a perfect system you built once and then admired. It was something people chose repeatedly. On ordinary mornings. During frightening conversations. After disappointments. After apologies. On days when love felt effortless. And especially on days when it did not. 2 years earlier, Ethan had stood at that bus stop with a ring meant for the wrong future. He had believed the most valuable things in his life were the things he could control. Now one son was pulling his sleeve because he wanted a cookie. The other was arguing that bedtime should legally be extended during school vacations. The woman beside him was laughing at both of them. Snow fell across Brooklyn. Ethan looked at the three people walking beside him. For once, he did not think about everything he had missed. He thought about where he was. And this time, when life moved forward, he was there to move with it.